How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I want to go over my Moto charge calling build for the Clockwork Ballet season starter that I recommend. I wanted to show you guys in game, but as you can see, the servers go down 24 hours before the league starts, so we're not going to get to do that. But luckily, I was able to recreate everything onto max roll, so that's what we're going to end up going over today. I did have a little bit of footage left over from when I was testing this on my SSF run, when I ran that through on the Traveler race, and then I basically went over the patch notes, and there's some new important things that you are going to be getting with this. And the main thing is that the scaling on your on the explosion, on the self-sacrifice rather, or self-destruction, is now scaling from all stats. So self-destruct program here does now scale off of strength, dex, and intelligence. The damage effectiveness skyrocketed as well. They're saying this, but they're saying the speed of the minion's charge is affected by their attack speed. So as long as we have enough attack and cast speed, I don't think this is going to matter at all. So I think this is going to end up being okay, especially because of these changes right here. The fact that the synthetic minion max life, it's taking 50% of their max life and energy shield instead of 16%. The damage is going up by like 300% effectiveness basically off of this alone, just because this is what you're already, this is the majority of the damage you're getting. All of the scaling for charge calling prior to this was using increasing your life and then using the memories to give your minions a percentage of your life as well. And then you use the other relic here, which gives your minions extra physical damage for every whatever 250 of their life. So the other buffs that charge calling Moto did receive is that you can see the self-destruct damage here for Team Assault has gone up to by 100% more damage, and then the damage for Guerrilla Tactics has gone up as well. It used to be 75% or 75 more damage, and it is now gone up all the way up to 240% more damage. This is actually pretty easy to max out, so this is something that should be up basically at all times. And then in the last trait, you will always have this up as well. So for each 1% overload effect, the explosion deals an extra 1% damage instead of for 2 overload effect. So you're just getting another huge buff there. But the main thing that we are kind of getting out of this is basically the scaling for Moto, or for charge calling Moto, has always just been basically, again, scaling your own life, as well as scaling the life of your minions, and then basically stacking crit damage and crit strike rating using a corrupted Warden's Breastpin in order to ensure that they cannot deal physical damage. So the reason why we want to use Grim Phantoms on this build, there's a few reasons, but the main thing is we have Elemental Shock, as well as the fact that summoned Grim Phantoms will automatically summon themselves again after they die. So what that means is that you don't have to hit any buttons. So while you're running through maps, you'll be able to get an activation medium on your electrocute, on your elemental shock, on your compound source, and then you'll basically just hit blink, and that's all you'll have to do around the map. There are ways to get around and use spider tanks instead. They will be more damage, and in order to do that, you will have to get a Goddess of Hunting Slate, and you will have to get the there is one that converts physical damage for you and for minions over to lightning damage. So if you do want to run spider tanks or the guards themselves, then you will have to, again, run this slate in order to get your damage over to lightning damage, and then you're more than welcome to do that, but it does mean that you are going to have to be clicking more buttons than you would be on the Grim Phantom build, which the whole point of this is honestly to just make things nice and easy. With this, before you get Warden's Breastpin, They say that the drop rate on all of the legendaries up to 2 LP is going to be, much, much higher, and it should be very, very easy to get. It may or may not be the case. We'll have to see. Same thing with Fiend Crown and all those other things. I didn't add any of the crafted gear or crafted mods to this. I do know some of these are like more common in regards to the tiers that they were. So Royal Cycle was not a very high tier chest, so it's actually fairly easy to find. But with 100% or 100 to all stats, that is 150% more damage for your self-destruct protocol. So this chest is going to be a really, really good option early on. There is a better version of this that you can get, but it does drop from the hardest version of the Tidemaster, that's Void Embankment. So I don't think that's going to be very cheap. If you are looking for a more defensive option, my recommendation is going to be Martyr Staff. You dig a huge injury buffer off of this, as well as you get a ton of life. The reason why it's nice to puff up your own life on this is because of the memories that you are going to be wanting to use, which gives 25% of the player's max life to the base life of your minions. And then again, because your minions are taking 50% of their base life as the damage for self-destruct protocol, they're adding that rather to their damage for self-destruct protocol. Here with Quick Battle, this base physical damage, again, it has 200% damage effectiveness now as well. So effectively, every point of life that you have, 25% of that life is basically just turning into flat physical damage for the minion when they explode. And then the way the charge calling works, they explode as soon as you spawn them. When you have Quick Battle on, as soon as you spawn a minion, they get overload right away because of the kit on charge calling Moto, which means they immediately run to an enemy and then blow up. So what this means is, again, the same thing. You're just basically stacking these. You're stacking this additional crit damage for every mechanical part collected. And then you end up running all three of these. If you do get Dominion of the Iron Pack, you do want to run one. If you get one, even the prototype, I believe, is still going to be better. If you have like a T1 of this, it might be better than the prototype. But obviously the non-prototype is going to be better as well. So for the rest of the gear, you want Mind Infusion Belt or boots will be good. Just because you do have the elemental shock that you're casting all the time. Getting a free Dark Gate as well for some additional damage will always be nice. Otherwise, again, just craft the same thing that you're pretty much going to be crafting on every single piece of gear, which is just going to be some life. Any attributes, again, it doesn't matter if it's strength, dex, or int on this build. You are going to want to prefer strength if you have a choice, if you're just actually crafting one, and I'm going to show you why here in a minute. And then you're just going to basically be crafting resistances and critical strike damage. And then same thing for the rings, minion damage, life, strength, crit damage, and res. Same thing for both, but this maul and this weapon is the reason why you want to end up crafting strength if you can. Because you can get yourself some additional critical strike damage out of Lava Maul. If you can get this as a base, these may be harder to get, but they're not probably going to be that sought after, so I don't think people are going to be using that much, so it should be no problem to end up finding one of these bases to craft on. For your weapon, you have a couple options. I always recommend just going this simpler option, which is just getting a hammer that is basically a plus 10 to plus 12 hammer, as long as you get one of these mods to T0. And then again, you just craft your minion damage, minion critical damage, minion double damage, and then critical strike damage on there. You can also go the route of like actually crafting a hammer or an axe that is full physical damage, or you can get an axe with like explode on it, things like that, and then you can use isomorphic arms, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's much easier to just craft something like this and then just kind of move on and don't really have to think about it too much. In regards to the skills themselves, you are going to be running Summon Grim Phantom. You do get this at fairly low level, and then you just run it with Elemental Fusion, Mechanical Modification. Early on, you will want to run this with, where did it go here? It's the other skill that gives +1 minions, but you don't need it as you get later on because you start to get some points for it. I don't know why I can't find it in this tree right now, but it's in here somewhere. I am completely spacing the name of this skill right now. It's like Maniacal Army, I believe. Oh, right here. Maniacal Army. So yeah, you will want to run this early on, just so it can get you up to that threshold of summoning 3 Grim Phantoms um, while you have mechanical modification on. But you don't really have to worry too much about that. You can always check the max roll guide by Zen M. It's pretty much going to be very close to this. There's just some minor differences kind of once you get to endgame. So from my testing, I was getting the most damage with Lightning Pen, Servant damage, and added lightning damage. I know Zen M's guide points to something different, so use whatever you prefer, or honestly just test all the different supports, because it honestly might be a difference depending on what gear you have or something like that. So at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter though. So Compound Source with Limber Stretch, Auto Charge, and Residues. Then we have a Blink with Quick Mobility, Magic Dash. And then we have Electrocute with Terrain of Malice, Abysmal Hatred, and Increased Area. And then the core damage buff for the build here is going to be Elemental Shock. This has been buffed, so it's actually kind of nice where each one of the minions is going to inflict a debuff for minus 26% elemental resistance. So they can actually end up with more than 3 stacks of this buff on them, because if you think about how your minions, they're going to explode and they're going to die, and they're going to leave this debuff on them for 3 seconds. Or more because of extended duration. And then they're going to be getting hit by the next wave of attacks, the next wave, and next wave. So you'll end up with like a rolling amount of multiple of these minus res buffs on the enemy. So it makes this very, very strong. For your passives, we are running Electric Conversion, Summon Thunder Spirit, and a Weapon Amplification. And then for the tree itself, you are basically just going into minion damage, increasing your life, minion crit and strike damage, again minion life, bonuses to minion skill level. If you want to go a more defensive route, you can always, if you don't need the damage, you can always swap orders here into Shrink Back. And then same thing with Machinist, you can change Burning Aggression over here into Kinetic Conversion. And then you can change Steel Vanguard Knowledgeable, or change the Steel Vanguard Reflection rather into Curtain. So if you want to make this build extremely, extremely tanky, if you have like a really, really hard boss that you're trying to kill, you can always go the route of just having a ton of barrier that is refreshing all the time, and you'll be extremely tanky and really, really hard to kill. The character already kind of gets itself up to like over 10k life, so typically you're going to have no issues with survivability. But again, if you are trying to make yourself even tankier, maybe there's a reason, you can always do that. So other than that, same thing in this tree as well. Minion damage, max life, minion crit damage, and then we have some flat damage here, some armor pen, and then more life and some regen, and then just double damage chance and synthetic troop level. And then for the Steel Vanguard tree, more of the same. Damage, minion damage, life, some sealed mana here, some extra defenses here, so res, elemental damage, less of it taken, and then converting Fizz damage to elemental. And then we have some LA pen here, as well as aura effect, more sealed mana, and then you get an additional blessing here. So yeah, sorry I don't really have that much footage for you guys. If you do want to check back the video just from like the SSF Moto guide, that you can pretty much get a feel for what the character kind of does. It's kind of a bit of a nice play style, to be honest, especially with Summon Grim Phantoms. Again, you just get to run around the map. You're just hitting blink and you're looting, and you're really, really hard to kill just because of all of the additional life that you have, as well as the life regen. So you get a lot of really chill, like AFK time on the build, to be honest. So it's a really, really fun play style for those that do like minion builds. So I highly recommend checking it out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And other than that, see you in the next one.